Welcome back, Pauper players. So now we are entering into the semifinals. And this matchup, I checked out who I was playing against before the match started here, and they barely have a history of tournament finishes. However, I did see that they have a history with Delver, and I didn't know if it was going to be Mono Blue Delver or Blue Red Delver, because they seem like they have a history with both. I think I just kind of went with the assumption that there may have been like more Mono Blue Delver here, just because I know it's been more popular lately, and I think that's what their more recent finish had been. So I started off this and took the play. I believe I should have kept this hand because this looks good. If I'm assuming that I'm going up against Mono Blue Delver, then going Lanor Elves into Priest of Titania into, obviously Huntmaster, Longbow, that kind of thing, just seems crazy good and really actually kind of hard for them to end up dealing with. So let's just kind of go along. It does look like I ended up keeping that. But then I saw the mountain and went, oh hell. Luckily, I managed to draw Forest and get in there a little bit here. Obviously, now I'm going Huntmaster. Arguably, that I may have wanted to go for the Longbow play there, but I think playing out the Huntmasters and trying to go a little wider and prep up for a distant melody action is probably the better play here. Just as well, being able to go wide again, getting in there with a Longbow does seem like a good play. Not perfect, but definitely seems applicable here. Even more so, now they're going Ninja, and they're going Augur. So this gives me an opportunity to deal with the Ninja. However, instead I'm going to focus on going for the Distant Melody game plan and just trying to get my board a little wider while I have the opportunity to do so. This lets me get down Timberwatch Elf and just go nuts. At this point, they're trying to draw and see if they can hit into a kill spell to deal with the Timberwatch Elf. They were able to get there, but at the cost of everything else. So now they're kind of playing way, way more on the defensive. And at this point, I'm just pretty much dealing with all of their creatures. I have mana to, take care of them all. I have a Well-Wisher in my hand to go off and go crazy. Even though they're countering it, though, I still have plenty of ways to just handle it. And they're not going to block because they know I'll kill their Augur in response. So at this point, they're really just digging. And thankfully, because of just how things went, I'm pretty much just able to get in for some just straight damage. And that's basically the gist of just how this game goes from here at this point. And they're tapping things, untapping things. They play Fairy Miscreants. They play two of them, but you ping the one before the trigger can go off, so that way they don't get their draw trigger from that. And they can, they're trying to go Spellstutter Sprite here, but Kieran Ranger, untap Mystic, tap it back again, and just go in for damage. I believe I counted lethal here, and I did. So that ended up giving me the game for that. Now, siding out against Blue Red Delver is a little trickier. There's a couple things you have to keep in mind when you're siding for it. First off, the game one is a lot easier. They don't have as much hate, and they have to hope to draw, their lightning bolts or shreds. If they don't really draw those, then they are in for a world of hurt. However, when it comes to post board, you can start to expect Electrickery and Swirling Sandstorm, among other things. Sometimes it's not been uncommon for me to have seen like a player bringing Pyroblast to deal with Distant Melody, because it's such a key card that they will bring it in. So what I ended up doing is I took out a Distant Melody, I took out a Huntmaster, I took out a Priest Titania, a Sylvan Ranger, and a Nettle Sentinel. Why did I take these out? Distant Melody and Huntmaster, they get a lot harder to cast against decks like this, where they're more control-oriented, because at that point in the game, they probably have counter spells and such. And also, you know, like Distant Melody, if they wipe your board in response to you casting Distant Melody, well, you're just screwed. You draw exactly 0 cards. Priest Titania gets a little more weaker, and, you know, you don't really want to be sinking 2 mana into a 1/1 that's just going to get bolted. Sylvan Ranger, I like having 3 in my deck, but if I'm taking out any sort of number of Distant Melodies, it's usually also an okay play to just take out 1. Because really, once you hit that island, a lot of times Sylvan Ranger almost just becomes a dead card. It's just a 1/1. It chump blocks all day, and that's pretty much about it. It turns into one of the 1/1 tokens that Huntmaster ends up producing. And Nettle Sentinel, it's decent here, but it just, again, it gets bolted forever, and it's just not nearly as good. So what I ended up bringing in are all 3 of my Spider Silk Armors. Not only is it good anti-Electrickery hate, but it also helps me block all their fairies, their delvers, all that kind of stuff. I also end up bringing in a Rapid Vigor, which deals with both the Electrickery and Swirling Sandstorm, as well as Relic of Progenitus, which not only acts as card draw, but it keeps them off of Swirling Sandstorm. So I think if I recall correctly, I end up keeping this hand, because seeing multiple Elvish Vanguards, unlike the mono blue version, which plays a lot of bounce spells like Vapor Stag and Snap, the blue-red version really doesn't. It goes for the more hard removal with the, you know, the Lightning Bolt and Scred and all of that. So your Vanguards are a little better in this matchup. So you go turn 1, Birchler Rangers, turn 2, try and hit your Priest of Titania, and just go, you know, go crazy. Alternatively, you can also go Sylvan Ranger. Then this got even better now, because now I can go Llanowar Elves instead. But they have the Lightning Bolt for it. Again, this doesn't really matter too much anyway, just because of the nature of what they're doing here. In doing this, I'm baiting out some counter magic. Just hoping they'll take the bait. Thankfully, they did. I may have gotten a little greedy there by going with Birchler Rangers, but, you know, they didn't have a counter, didn't have a way to deal with it, so that just basically let me get up some mana and be able to deal with it all the same. And with pretty much the same amount of mana that it would have cost me to deal with it otherwise. The unfortunate problem, though, is they not only did they draw the Swirling Sandstorm, but I'm not really hitting much by way of gas. So it's just kind of mediocre overall with everything. And what ends up happening here, if I recall correctly, I just end up flooding like crazy. And it's not good. And from here on, they pretty much just end up controlling the board state. The reason I only block with the Sylvan Ranger as opposed to the Kieran Ranger is because I anticipate them having the Electrickery, which they ended up having in the long run anyway. And this is where I proceed to flood out. So they just pretty much beat me just because I ended up having some bad luck, unfortunately. You know, Magic is a skill game, first and foremost, but it is also a game of variance. So having situations like this, it happens, and from here on, they basically just end up controlling down the board, and I'm not able to kill them before they can kill me. And this is where they have the second Swirling Sandstorm, and this just straight up kills me. They have 5 damage on the board, and then they lightning bolt me. I'm not sure if I brought anything back into the matchup for Game 3, but as you can tell, Swirling Sandstorm, oh, it is hell on earth to deal with. So I think I ended up taking out my second Distant Melody. Trying to remember what I brought in here. Because obviously the cards that I left out before are exactly the same. Oh, I remember what I brought in here. So, yeah. I also took out a Vanguard, and basically what I did is I brought in the Scattershot Archers. And because for whatever reason, up until this point in the entire challenge, I basically forgot that those cards even existed in here. I should have brought them in the last game, but unfortunately I didn't, and I looked at it and went, wait a minute, why am I not playing these? So I ended up bringing them in. And thankfully, it actually worked out okay here. So this hand, I look at, and I think it's good, but it's fragile. I don't remember if I ended up keeping it here. But it looks keepable, but shaky. Sometimes you do want to risk it, just to hope for the best. Especially since you're on the play. What you can do here is go Birchlore Rangers and Kieran Ranger. Actually, the ideal play here, I believe, would be to go Birchlore Rangers. Turn 1, turn 2, play Forests. And go Elvish Vanguard, and then Kieran Ranger. And then you also have another man that can go Birchlore Rangers again, which then puts your Birchlore Rangers at, or I'm sorry, your Elvish Vanguard at a 3/3 just right out of the gate. So it looks okay, it looks somewhat keepable, and I do, in fact, end up keeping it. And what's even more here is obviously now I see the Spider Silk Armor. I do think I made a bit of a misplay here, in that I probably should have just gone right out of the gate for the Spider Silk Armor. I don't really know why I didn't, but getting the Well-Wisher down this early and trying to get it to stick with Spider Silk Armor just pays off so well, pays off in spades here, and really just kind of helps get in for that extra damage, and, well, it helps keep you in the game, rather, I should say. And I just happened to let the Vanguard go through, which is super okay with me. I think that might have been a little risky on my part. I'm not sure why I ended up doing it when I did like that. But having the second Spider Silk Armor, oh, it just makes it that much harder to deal with. But unfortunately, they have the Spellstutter Sprite to deal with it. And here I end up drawing the Rapid Vigor, and clearly they're trying to place the Swirling Sandstorm, which they ended up revealing on one of their Delvers. But they got land stuck, so they're just kind of sitting there trying to look happy. And this is where I just make it so I, end up gaining a bunch of life just before they end up killing my Well-Wisher down. And I fire off a Distant Melody, but I also recognize the fact that I am, like, in dire straits here. It's so easy for them to just take me out, and if they can hit the lands. And there I recognize, obviously, the Timberwatch is dead, and that sucks, but just pretty much gotta do the best I can with this, and fight back given the situation. And what my ideal goal here is to be able to hold back enough mana that I can cast my Rapid Vigor here to deal with the Swirling Sandstorm, which is exactly what happens. I end up tapping down the 2 creatures here and go in with the Mystic, and at this point I just go straight in. Because if I recall correctly, the damage would have been exact, or would have put them so deep. Like, I believe that's what happened, yeah. Because you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it ends up dealing 6 damage to them, and even if they wipe out most of this board, I'm still going to have enough stuff in here that I can just end up playing it out again, just going, you know, manage to get 1 point of damage through. It's pretty easy from here on. I admit it probably was a little risky in part because obviously I'm still risking a Swirling Sandstorm hitting me. However, even if they were to cast a Swirling Sandstorm at this point, the Elvish Vanguard still would have survived. And what's really funny is normally I'm not actually a pretty big proponent of Rapid Vigor. I think it's one of the weaker of the options that you have, and so I just did the best I could here. And ultimately, it paid off, and I was able to get there. And so that ends up taking us straight into the finals, which was just mind-blowing for me already. You know, obviously, even just getting in the top 8, that was something else by itself. But to be making it the finals, that was like, whoa. So, check it out for sure. Stay tuned.